Hi again. In this particular video for Lab 2, Quiz 2, and Exam 1 for module number 1 of the class, I'm going to demonstrate how to use StatCrunch in order to compute percentages in a not one variable case, but the two paired categorical variable case, in which we use as a starting point data in summary form in what the textbook calls a contingency table. So the first thing I'll do in my screen share is go look at your Canvas again. When we look at your Canvas page, you go to the student links for your assignments. You click there. Upon clicking on my assignments, you then click on Lab 2 or Quiz 2 or Exam 1, whichever activity you're engaged in. And then open the lab. And in this specific instance, we're going to open the lab to problem number 4. Problem number 4 is the first problem in which you have two categorical variables. As you can see, the row categorical variable corresponds to how many years employees have been with a company. So some employees are rookies, some employees are long tenure, like over 5 years, and some employees are mid-years, 1 to 5 years of tenure on the job. Then the second categorical variable occupies the columns, and that variable measures the employee's level of education in a categorical manner as well. And it's an ordinal manner as well, from no degrees to PhDs, just like problem 1 that we worked on in an earlier video. However, in this case, the data table that you see on the top right-hand corner, it now has this little icon here. This copy icon allows you to click and to immediately open this data in StatCrunch. You can also copy to clipboard, Control-C, and after Control-C, you can go to a blank page of StatCrunch, go to where it says var1, and paste the data. And this particular data set is already in a proper format in order to compute percentages out of these statistics here that are summarizing what sort of educational level by column and what sort of tenure in years by row employees at this company have. And on some occasions, you will find that some contingency tables come with subtotals by column and subtotals by row and grand totals on the table. In those situations, you will want to first delete any such subtotals. That's because if you don't delete them, StatCrunch will think of them as additional categories by column and by row, and it'll double count the data by columns, double count the data by rows, and overall, it'll quadruple count the overall data. And then all the percentages that you calculate based on these contingency statistics will be off by either a factor of 2 or a factor of 4. And so make sure that when you do download a contingency table of data into StatCrunch, that you do not have the presence of subtotals or grand totals. In addition to that, you do not want to have the labels by column anywhere but in the gray zone where the variable names are. And if you see a vacant line that can be more meaningfully typed, it's probably a good idea to label such columns. Like in this case, I'm labeling the first column of this summary form tenure because that way I know that the row labels are in the first column, which is another item that you should take care of when you are computing percentages in using StatCrunch. So let me create this little list here. To-dos when using StatCrunch to compute percentages from counts in two paired categorical variables. First thing that you want to do is be sure no subtotals by row are present. Two, be sure no subtotals by column are present. Delete them if need be. And then be sure that all column labels are in the var gray column. So that'll be the third item. And fourth, sure that all row labels are in the first column. And only then do you want to use StatCrunch and do the following. Click on Stat, click on Tables, click on Contingency, click on With Summary, and this will open a dialog window with the software. And when the dialog window opens, you then have to select the columns with contingency counts. B, select the row labels. And C, select which percentages to display. It could be row or column, or total, or all of the above. Depends on the question at hand. After that, you then click on Compute, and you'll get your desired percentages done for you. So the arithmetic is completely handled by StatCrunch. So let's go back to StatCrunch now. And as we said before, you would go Stat, Tables, Contingency, with Summary. You click on Summary, and you will get this dialog window open. And in this dialog window, you do not want to select tenure because tenure does not have contingency counts. You only want to select None, AA, BA, MA, and PhD. And as you highlight the columns you want, they appear on this white area here. The next step, step B, is you want to select tenure for your row labels, because tenure has your row labels in the first column. And last but not least, you want to calculate row, column, and percents of total. That gives you all possible percentages that can be computed from the counts, the contingency counts present here. So as you click compute, you will see 3 percentages for each contingency count, whereby each percentage is using the contingency count with respect to either the row total, hence the term row percent, the column total, hence the term column percent for the second percentage, and percent of total, which is when you take a contingency count in relation to all data that you have counted, all categorizations counted. And so, for example, what does this number here represent? The 57.42%. Okay, so the way we would write that would be 57.42% of 1 to 5 year tenure people have earned BA degrees. Then 49.59% of BA degrees have been with the company for 1 to 5 years. And 22.81% of all employees are 1 to 5 years tenure and BA degree possessors. Or have BA degrees. And in this terminology, the first percentage is called a row percent. The second one is called a column percent. And the last one is called a percent of total. And these are all conditional percentages. So there are 3 kinds of conditional percentages. When you put a contingency count in relation to the row that it is in, the row total, we call that a row percent. When we take a contingency count in comparison to the column percent, we call that a column to the column total, sorry, it's called a column percent. And the last is when you take a contingency count divided by the overall count of people, and that is a percent of total. Those are called conditional percentages. We also have 2 other kinds of percentages called marginal percentages. And the marginal percentages are percentages where you would take the row totals and divide them by the overall total. The column percent marginal are when you take the column totals on the far right, sorry, on the far bottom of the table, and you divide them by the overall. So all in all, a contingency table really has 5 kinds of percentages. On the interior of the table, you will see conditional, row, column, and percent of total. And on the far exterior, you will see marginal row totals. And on the far bottom, you will see marginal column totals for 5 total different kinds of percentages. One more conceptual note about these kinds of percentages. These kinds of percentages are always rational. In other words, these percentages are always going to be derived from taking one count by another. The count in the numerator is referred to as the object of your percentage, and the count in your denominator is referred to as the count of the benchmark or reference point. And all percentages are always defined or described in this manner. And there are 2 ways that questions about these percentages are asked in your Lab 2, in your Quiz 2, and in your Exam 1. One format for questions is, or one approach for questions is called the question approach. And usually you will see the question with a what, percentage of, la 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 la. Then you will see a verb of the question. And then you will see in the syntax of the question another term. You'll see 2 terms. And at the end, the question will have a question mark. The object of the question will actually be after the verb, and the benchmark of the question be before the verb. And so the way to recognize the object that you're counting so that you can put it in the numerator, and the benchmark of the counting so that you could put it in the denominator, is in that format. The second type of approach in which you get asked questions about these percentages in your assignments, be it Lab 2, be it Quiz 2, or be it the exam, is in the form of a command where it says something like construct the percentage of la 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 for la 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 la. And then you will see that that particular structure ends in a manner such that the object is the first part with the of, and then the benchmark is the for. And so in that kind of a question structure, you will have the object and the benchmark reversed from the question format. So you have 2 different formats. In format 1 is a question format. Format 2 is a command format. And both formats have an object. The object I'm highlighting in yellow, that's whose count goes in the top of the percentage. And then the benchmark goes before the verb in the question, goes after the verb in the statement, command statement, and that's the numerical count that goes in the bottom of the fraction. And as we all know, yellow and blue makes for green. So to calculate a percentage, you divide the yellow by the blue. That's in addition to that, we now also have here the format in STATCRUNCH that allows you to compute all 5 kinds of percentages. Including the preconditions. Okay. So if you have those 4 preconditions, then you can use StatCrunch to calculate through this procedure any percentage for any question or for any command in any of the Lab 2, Quiz 2, or Exam 1 that you need. And I hope this board work helps with that process. I'm going to try to take a picture of this board work and put it in your notes. I'll take a photo right now. I'm going to send it to you as notes to complement this second video. And thank you for watching. And I hope and wish that this helps you succeed in completing chapter 2 and understanding the how-to computations. A third video is still to come, and in that video we will discuss what to do with these descriptions of percentages. And there are 2 things we do. One is establish association or dependence between variables, and the other is something that we call Simpson's paradox, and that will be the subject of the next 2 last videos for chapter 2. Thank you for watching.